Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska Taylor. Thank you so much for joining me today. And today I want to talk about a really interesting topic, which is what makes a voice engaging, exciting, and interesting to an audience or to a listener. Now, yes, to some extent, this is subjective, but there's also a lot of vocal science to back up what we know about the voice and what we know excites the brain, excites the ear, excites us when we listen to it. So maybe when you finish watching this video and you can reflect on the voices that you like listening to or that you don't like listening to, then maybe you might start to see, maybe that's why I don't like that voice. So a lot of these principles are what I teach in my private coaching, whether I'm working with singers or speakers. And it's also really important for me to say this has got nothing to do with accent. And as we go through the video, you'll start to see why I say that. It's really irrelevant. The accent, any accent can be enhanced, can be maximized, can be modified to bring out its true richness and power. So in my work, I talk a lot about finding your resonant voice as a speaker, because it's really the cornerstone to ultimate expression, power, clarity, and effortlessness, which is so important as a speaker. If you want to be able to speak for hours without your voice tiring, without your voice getting weak and croaky, then understanding this concept of a resonant voice and how to access it is so important. And as I say, this is what I teach as part of my voice coaching, because it's a process, there's lots of factors involved. But today I'm going to talk about the sort of science behind this. So essentially, a resonant voice has a rich, clear, powerful, and free tone due to the natural amplification and enhancement of that tone in the vocal tract. Now, the vocal tract is essentially from the glottis, the larynx, to the lips. So it's that tube that runs from essentially in the throat to the end of the lips. And it's how we modify and enhance those sound waves within these cavities that really makes you sound like you and me sound like me. But it also means that we can modify that tone. We can change the way our voice comes out. We can make it sound more powerful if we want to, if we understand what we're doing in terms of these resonating cavities. So just to make it very, very simple, so at the most basic level, at the laryngeal level, if I was to chop my head off, and at the laryngeal level, you just heard the sound waves produced at this level, they would have a buzzing sound. And essentially, we all at that level sound the same. And if you're interested to know what that sounds like, go on YouTube and look it up, because you can actually hear samples of what this sounds like. Not that they've chopped people's heads off, but they've got other ways of doing it. So, for example, if I was to have Beyonce's voice transplanted into mine, so I had her larynx just swapped with mine, I would still sound like me, because it's not really what's going on at this level, it's what's going on up here, which is why when I work with speakers, a lot of what I'm doing is helping them to shift their focus of their voice away from the throat and more towards what's going on with my jaw, my tongue, my lips, what's going on up here versus what's going on here. At the laryngeal level, the only thing that's really produced at that level is pitch. I say only, the only thing is pitch and loudness, which is obviously very, very important. So if you think about a fully grown adult male, bigger larynx means deeper pitch, bigger voice. Conversely, a baby, small larynx, very small larynx, means higher pitch and smaller voice. So at the very most basic level, we can see what happens at the laryngeal level, which is, as I say, pitch and loudness. But what we're interested in as a speaker is what's really going on above that. And what are we doing to modify and enhance those sound waves once they leave the larynx? So what you may not realize is actually there are multiple layers of sound to the sound waves that leave the larynx, which we call harmonics. So multiple layers of sound. Now, I'm going to try and keep this simple, because what a lot of speakers don't realize is they're actually speaking on a pitch. Much like you sing a song and you might start on a middle C and sing your melody, you're actually speaking on a pitch. And I could get a piano, I've got my piano over there, I could get my piano out and tell you roughly what pitch you speak on, which I think is often very baffling to people, because they really don't see their speaking voice as anything to do with their singing voice. And that's why I say to people all the time, your speaking voice is just the lowest part of your singing voice. But this is really important for harmonics and understanding. So let's say, for the sake of argument, your average kind of speaking pitch is on A below middle C, an A3. When those sound waves leave the larynx, there's actually multiple layers of sound, or multiple harmonics above that A3, which have the potential to be amplified and modified. And that's what gives the voice its richness. If you think about like a cake with lots and lots of layers, the more layers, the kind of richer the cake is. So think about that in terms of sound. So the more layers of sound, the richer your voice, the more powerful your voice. And that is all determined by what you're doing in terms of modification and amplification of those sound waves. So the more resonant a voice, the more harmonics are present and can be perceived by the human ear. There are certain things that we know will limit harmonics in the voice. For example, a very breathy or airy voice, it's not going to have much richness or resonance to it. So a lot of the time when people come to me and their voice is very quiet or weak, one of the things I would be doing is working perhaps with them more at the laryngeal level and getting more chord closure, getting more power in the voice at this level before we start sort of modifying it and amplifying it above the vocal fold level. So what's this got to do then with vocal science, and what science says about what we perceive to be a more engaging, interesting, exciting voice? Well, it has to do a lot with the ear and how the ear perceives sound. So I've put a diagram up of inside an ear, which I have got permission to use, and I'm just going to credit in my description of this video the owners of this image. But I thought it'd be more useful for you to see the inside of the ear than me trying to describe the inside of an ear. So when we hear a voice, as we're listening to someone speak, the sound goes into our ear and it causes the tympanic membrane, or the eardrum, to vibrate, which then causes the malleus, the incus, and the stapes to vibrate, and then causes the oval window to vibrate, which then causes the fluid inside the cochlea to vibrate. So it's this like domino effect of vibrations. Now, depending on the frequency of the sound, the vibrating fluid is going to cause a different section of the cilia membrane to vibrate. So in this diagram that you're looking at, it's actually the cochlea that has been rolled out, and you can see the different frequency points along the cochlea. Obviously, it's not actually long, outstretched like this, it's actually curled up, but you can see the different frequency points on the cochlea. And it helps us to see that a voice that has more harmonics, so more resonance, will cause more sections of the listener's cilia membrane to vibrate. And the cilia membrane can interpret sound as low as 25 hertz up to 20,000 hertz. And therefore, more nerve impulses are sent to the brain. So a resonant voice is quite literally exciting to our ear and our nervous system. So we literally get excited when we hear this richness in tone, this richness in harmonics. We may not know that that's what we're actually listening to and perceiving. That is what the brain is responding to. So I found this personally really fascinating when I learned about this, and how, we're not just saying a resonant voice is a more engaging voice. There's actual science to back it up, that the ear is literally more excited by resonance in a voice, by more harmonics in a voice. And the only way you can have more harmonics in a voice is to have more resonance in your voice. So As I said, this is part of my voice coaching. It's not sort of something you can do overnight. It's a process that you have to understand your voice and understand how it really functions. But as I said at the beginning, it's really got nothing to do with your accent. Any accent can be made more resonant and can have access to greater harmonics. So I hope I haven't completely confused you, because there's quite a lot of science in today's video, which is a bit different to my normal videos. But I hope you found that really, really interesting. If you would like to learn more about how you could find more resonance and harmonics in your own speaking voice, then please do schedule a free voice consult below. Or if you just want to have that first-hand experience of what do I actually do with someone in a coaching session? What does this look like from a sort of exercise practical perspective in my voice? Then please book a one-on-one voice intro session, because that's the more practical side. The consults are more a discussion where we can chat about your goals and your aspirations with your voice. They're not an actual voice lesson. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you found that interesting. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. It makes such a difference to getting my videos out there. And thank you so much, and I will see you on next week's video.